Welcome, everyone, to the Defiant podcast.
Glad to be here.
We're a service from Defiant, the on-chain lifestyle sports brand. And today, well, we're doing a deep dive.
Not just scratching the surface.
Exactly. We've got the top 5 news items across DeFi, entertainment, and sports. We want to really unpack what they mean for you.
Right. Cut through the noise, provide some context, maybe see the bigger picture in these spaces that are just moving so fast.
Okay, let's kick things off with DeFi and Web3 gaming. There's this narrative floating around, maybe a slowdown.
Yeah, you hear that skepticism sometimes.
But our sources point somewhere else, specifically the Ronin Network.
Ah, Ronin. Yes.
The activity level there is, well, it's genuinely impressive. We're talking 1.5 million monthly active users.
And 377,000 daily active addresses. That's a lot of daily interaction.
Let's unpack that. What does that level of engagement actually mean in this Web3 gaming world?
Well, look, those aren't just, numbers on a page. That many real people using the network daily, monthly. It signals a genuinely engaged community.
So the games, the apps, they're actually sticking.
It suggests they are, yeah.
Yeah.
Providing real value, real entertainment. That's kind of the holy grail the whole Web3 gaming space has been chasing.
And that activity level, that consistency,
Yeah.
that's what brings in developers, right?
Exactly. It helps build out a sustainable ecosystem. Developers want to build where the users are.
And the transaction numbers seem to back that up too. 1.2 billion transactions.
Wow. Yeah.
And they've pulled in $6.5 million in lifetime fees, plus nearly 40% of the ARN token is staked.
Right. 39.2% state. That's pretty significant.
What does that tell you about the health of the project, the belief in it?
Okay, so look how those pieces fit together.
Mm.
High usage drives transactions.
Uh-huh.
Transactions generate fees for the network. So you've got a kind of functioning economic loop there.
Makes sense.
And that big staking number. That signals, strong belief from the community in Ronin's future. They're willing to lock up their tokens, help secure the network.
And it tightens the circulating supply too, potentially helping the token price.
Could do, yeah. It shows commitment beyond just quick trading.
It looks like they're not just coasting either. Some strategic moves happening, like Ronin NFTs now tradable on OpenSea.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Why is that so significant, you think?
Well, OpenSea is it's the giant in the NFT space, right?
Dominant, yeah.
So plugging Ronin NFTs into that, it opens up that whole ecosystem to a huge audience of NFT collectors, traders, people who maybe weren't looking at Ronin before.
So better visibility, maybe more liquidity for those NFTs.
Absolutely. And a potential pipeline for new users into Ronin's games. Smart move.
And then there's this $3 million boost for DeFi rewards within Ronin. How does that play in?
Think of it like weaving financial incentives directly into the gaming fabric.
Okay.
By offering good DeFi yields, Ronin makes it more financially attractive to just be in their ecosystem. Playing games, providing liquidity, using other DeFi apps there.
So it attracts gamers who want to earn, but maybe also crypto folks just looking for yield.
Exactly. It bridges those two worlds a bit more.
And making it easier to get in and out seems key, too. That partnership with Transact for fiat on-ramps and off-ramps.
Crucial step.
Yeah.
Anyone serious about mainstream adoption needs that.
Why is that so critical?
Because, let's face it, navigating crypto exchanges just to get started, it's complicated for a lot of people.
It's a barrier.
A huge barrier. Transact smooths that out, lets people use familiar payment methods. It just makes the whole thing way more accessible, especially for Web2 users.
But ultimately, it comes down to the games, right? And they seem to have some hitters. Cambria Season 2 has a $1 million reward pool.
$1 million. Yeah, that'll get competitive gamers interested.
Creates buzz, attracts talent.
Definitely. A prize pool like that makes the game more engaging, more competitive, and draws eyeballs, viewers, more participants to Ronin overall.
And Fishing Frenzy Phase 2. Sources say strong user growth, good NFT sales there, too.
Yeah, those are good signs. Sustained growth, a healthy secondary market for the game's NFTs. It shows the game has legs, right? And that players see real value in those digital items. They're investing time and money.
Then there's Runiverse, just launched global early access. Players earn ANA,
Decentralization token. Yeah.
which then converts to their own in-game token, $6. That seems like an interesting crossover.
It's a clever way to get users, I think, tap into the existing M&A community.
Offer a familiar reward.
Right. And then give them a reason converting to $6 to actually try out your game. Could be a win-win for both platforms.
And you can't forget Pixels. Still going strong. Millions of players earning pexels.
Pixels has been a huge success story for Ronin. Shows the power of that play and earn model when done right.
And now they're partnering with Riniverse. Seems synergistic.
Yeah, likely cross-promotion, maybe sharing users. It strengthens both games and, ultimately, the whole Ronin network.
Some recent milestones really hammer this home. That OpenSea integration. $4 million in trading volume, first week alone.
Wow, okay. That's fast uptake.
What does that tell you?
It shouts that there's real demand for Ronin NFTs, and making them easy to get on OpenSea just unleashed it. Clear market interest.
Even meme coins are finding a home there. Temamart launched, 23,000 meme tokens?
Ah, yeah, that's a lot.
And 1.8 million are traded on them since January.
Shows Ronin is, open territory now, permissionless.
Right, we'll get to that. But the meme coin activity itself.
It shows an active community willing to experiment, even if it's speculative. It's just activity. Buzz.
And you mentioned permissionless. Ronin made that switch officially earlier this year. Any developer can build now.
Yeah, that's potentially a huge catalyst for growth.
How so?
Lowers the barrier to entry massively.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone with an idea can just build and deploy on Ronin now. Could lead to way more variety in games, tools, apps.
Fosters innovation.
Exactly, a more dynamic environment.
And they're backing that up with cash, a $10 million grant program.
Right, putting their money where their mouth is.
What's the goal there?
Direct financial support to get developers building cool new stuff on Ronin. It's a strategic investment in their own future, basically. Attract talent, incentivize new ideas.
So, okay, pull back to the big picture on Ronin. It feels like they're really carving out a strong position in Web3 gaming.
I think so.
It's not just hype. There's real user numbers, real activities, smart partnerships.
That's a clear focus on the developer side, too.
Mm-hmm.
It feels sustainable.
Yeah. Maybe it challenges that whole Web3 gaming is fading narrative.
It certainly provides a strong counterpoint. Shows that with the right approach, user focus, and ecosystem building, you can get real traction. Ronin's model is definitely one to watch.
Okay. Fascinating stuff happening there. Let's shift gears now. Away from gaming ecosystems, let's talk about, well, actual games. The NBA playoffs.
Ah, yes. Playoff season. Always exciting.
Things are heating up. Eastern Conference field is apparently locked in.
Yep, the matchups are set there.
And out west, the Lakers managed to snag the no 3 seed after some kind of chaotic finish.
Yeah, the West was pretty wild down the stretch. Seeding battles everywhere.
Now, obviously fans care about who their team plays, but why should our listeners, maybe those more focused on DeFi or Web3, pay attention to NBA playoff seedings?
Well, these aren't just games, right? Playoff moments become these huge cultural events. Everyone's talking about them.
Sure, water cooler talk.
Exactly. And more, these big sports moments intersect directly with Web3.
How so?
Think about iconic plays becoming NFTs, like NBA Top Shot, or fan tokens that offer unique ways to engage during these high-stakes games.
Right, that connection is getting stronger. So how could these specific playoffs impact the Web3 world? What are the ripples?
Well, all that excitement, all that fan energy around the playoffs, it's prime time to show off what sports-related digital assets can do.
Demonstrate utility?
Precisely. Platforms that let fans make predictions for rewards or collect digital moments or use fan tokens for special access. They could see a real surge in activity.
So the playoff buzz drives interest in the Web3 side.
It absolutely can. It's a chance to prove the value proposition.
Yeah.
Show how Web3 can actually make being a fan better, more interactive, more rewarding, especially during peak moments like the playoffs. We might see some cool, innovative uses pop up. Interesting connection there. Okay, let's pivot now to the regulatory side of things. Some important developments. First, Illinois. The state Senate passed SB 1797. What's the gist of that?
SB 1797 is basically Illinois trying to get its arms around crypto firms operating in the state.
Regulation coming in.
Yeah. The main goals seem to be protecting consumers, fighting fraud, preventing things like rug pulls, especially, with all the recent buzz around meme coin scams and risky stuff.
So it's a reaction to some of the wilder aspects of the crypto market.
Seems like it. A growing feeling among state lawmakers that they need some kind of framework to oversee digital assets, protect people from getting burned. Those high-profile scams probably lit a fire under them.
Why should someone outside Illinois care about this state-level bill? Because it could be a sign of things to come. If the federal government doesn't create a comprehensive crypto framework soon, you might see more states stepping in individually.
Leading to a patchwork of rules.
Exactly. A complex mess for crypto companies to navigate. trying to comply with different rules in different states.
Mm.
It also just signals more scrutiny overall, more pressure on the industry to, clean up its act and build trust.
Okay, sticking with regulation, but moving to the federal level now. Big news here. A Biden-era IRS crypto rule got repealed. What was that rule supposed to do?
Yeah, this was significant. That rule was aiming to broaden who counts as a broker for tax reporting.
Okay.
It would have pulled in a lot of crypto entities thinking decentralized exchanges, DXs, or even non-custodial wallet providers.
So platforms that don't actually hold your crypto, like Uniswap or MetaMask, maybe?
That was the idea, yeah. They would have had to collect user data, report crypto transactions to the IRS, much like your traditional stockbroker does.
Seems technically challenging for a DX.
Very. That was a major point of contention. But the goal was more tax compliance, more transparency in crypto trades.
So what's the immediate impact now that it's repealed? Who does this affect most?
Well, immediately, those DeFi protocols, those non-custodial wallets, they don't have to implement those specific broker-style reporting systems right now.
So a sigh of relief for them.
For many in the DeFi and privacy-focused crypto community, yes. But on the flip side, regulators, maybe consumer advocates, they might see this as a step back for oversight.
Less visibility into transactions?
Potentially, yeah. Raises concerns about tracking illicit activity, tax evasion.
Sources mentioned GOP lawmakers argued the rule was too burdensome, bad for innovation. Can you flesh that out?
The core argument there was, one, the technical difficulty, maybe impossibility, for truly decentralized platforms to comply. And two, the fear that heavy compliance costs would stifle new ideas, push developers and users to other countries with looser rules.
And the counter-argument. Those who wanted the rule kept.
Their main concerns are about, well, transparency, like we said, creating potential blind spots for illegal finance. Also, maybe creating an uneven playing field where crypto gets lighter treatment than traditional finance, which has these reporting rules already, and ultimately less tax compliance.
This repeal used something called the Congressional Review Act, right? And another rule about digital payment platforms got axed the same way.
That's right. The CRA gives Congress a fast track to overturn recent agency regulations. Both repeals seem part of a broader push to roll back rules put in place near the end of the previous administration.
So the digital payment rule, that was aimed at giving the CFPB more oversight.
Yes, over certain digital payment providers. So a similar theme, reducing regulatory load on tech and finance sectors.
Taking a step back then, what does this federal repeal signal for the future of U.S. crypto regulation? A lighter touch overall.
It could signal that, at least for now, regarding these broad reporting requirements, but it's complex. It really highlights that ongoing tug of war. How do you encourage innovation in crypto while still protecting consumers and preventing crime?
So the debate isn't over.
Far from it. We might see different regulatory strategies emerge now, maybe more focus on getting actual legislation through Congress instead of just agency rules. The landscape is still very much in flux.
Okay, one last major item for our deep dive today. Shifting to economic news, specifically from the Port of Los Angeles, they're forecasting a pretty steep drop in imports.
Yeah, that's the projection. Starting to decline in May and then falling sharply, they're saying at least 10% in the second half of the year. That's significant for a major port like LA.
What's causing that? What's the main reason?
It really seems to boil down to tariffs, punitive tariffs, especially the huge 145% ones on some goods coming from China.
Wow, 145%.
Yeah, and China accounts for something like 40% of LA's imports, so that hits hard. Even though some other tariffs got paused, most imports are still facing at least 10% duties.
But didn't imports actually tick up slightly just before this forecast?
They did, yeah. But that sounds like importers rushing to get goods in, build up their stock before those tariffs really bit down hard, trying to beat the clock.
Makes sense. What about the other side of the coin? Exports. How are U.S. goods doing going out?
Not great, according to the port. Loaded exports were down 15% compared to last year.
Why the drop there?
Counter tariffs. Retaliation from other countries, like China hitting back with big levies on U.S. goods, that puts a squeeze on American farmers, manufacturers trying to sell overseas.
So it cuts both ways. Fewer imports coming in, harder to get exports out. What are the wider economic ripples we might see from this?
Well, a big drop in trade volume like this can affect a lot of things. Inflation, for one. Maybe it slows down inflation if demand for imports falls.
Possibly.
But it could also hurt businesses that rely on those imports, maybe disrupting supply chains again, just as they were recovering. And, less trade generally isn't great for overall economic growth.
Now, this feels a bit like traditional economics, maybe separate from our usual DeFi crypto focus, but Is there a connection? Should our listeners care about port volumes?
I think so, yeah. There are potential links. Think about stablecoins. Sometimes they're used in international trade finance. Less trade could mean less stablecoin flow for that purpose.
Okay.
And you've got these emerging on-chain trade finance projects trying to tokenize invoices, use blockchain for cross-border stuff. Less trade volume could mean less activity for them, too.
So it shows the Web3 world isn't totally insulated.
Exactly. It underscores that even the cutting edge of DeFi is still tied into these bigger traditional macroeconomic forces. Global trade shifts, tariffs. They can have knock-on effects even in the crypto space.
Right. So quite a journey today. We've covered Ronin's resilience and growth in Web3 gaming,
Impressive stuff there.
the regulatory scene heating up in Illinois and shifting at the federal level,
Lots of moving parts.
the excitement building around the NBA playoffs and its Web3 connections,
Always a big cultural moment.
and this significant forecast for declining trade through a major U.S. port.
Yeah, connecting the dots between seemingly separate areas is fascinating. You see these broader trends emerge.
So things for our listeners to mull over. What can other Web3 projects maybe learn from Ronin's user-focused strategy?
Good question.
What does that Illinois bill really signal about where state-level crypto oversight might be heading?
And the federal repeal, what does that actually mean long-term for transparency versus innovation in digital assets?
And finally, how might these predicted shifts in global trade ripple out? Could they affect inflation, supply chains, even parts of the Web3 economy?
These are definitely the kinds of questions to keep asking. Understanding how these pieces fit together or maybe don't fit together is key.
Absolutely. This is really just the beginning of the conversation, the start of our analysis. We hope you'll dig deeper into these topics yourselves.
Yeah, consider the implications. What stands out most to you? What new questions does this raise?
Staying informed, thinking critically. That's the name of the game.
Couldn't agree more.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive on the Defiant podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Stay curious, everyone, and keep exploring.